We want to welcome you all out to our weekly meeting of the Board of Commissioners. Today is Tuesday, the 3rd day of May of 2016. It's a beautiful spring morning. The wind's not blowing quite as much as it was just a couple days ago. Thank heaven. So we'll begin our meeting with our invocation by Commissioner Ebert, our Pledge of Allegiance by Dominica Watkins, our Thought of the Day by Commissioner Gibson. We'll go to that point.
Our kind, gracious Heavenly Father, we humbly bow our heads to give thanks for the opportunity we have to live in this great country and to participate and have the rights that are received through the Constitution. We ask that we will be strengthened to exercise those rights and to live in a manner that will allow us to keep those rights. We're grateful for the opportunity as commissioners to serve this community, and we ask that the decisions that we make will be prompted and directed by Thee. We are grateful for this community. We ask that you will bless it, that you will strengthen it, and that you will guide it in all things. And we humbly ask for these blessings in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Please rise. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
For our thought, this is by Gordon B. Hinckley. This is one of the statements that he made that I really appreciated. He said this: "The most miserable people I know are those who are obsessed with themselves. The happiest people that I know are those who lose themselves in the service of others." And that kind of struck me today as I was thinking about the events of the last couple of days. We had a little mini disaster in some people's lives with the windstorm that blew through here over the weekend, and it was just really neat to watch as I saw individuals spend their whole day and couple of days when they probably had other really good things to do, just looking out for their neighbors and losing themselves in service to someone who might need it a little bit more than them. It's kind of fun to watch church meetings get canceled and people show up in suits and jeans and whatever it was they had on to their neighbors' homes or residences or whatever, to do whatever they thought they could to help. And it made me think truly that's I think maybe the key to our happiness is losing ourselves a little bit in service and forgetting a little bit about ourselves. It's not very common in today's world anymore that we think about people other than ourselves quite a bit, and I just thought that comment and that thought by Mr. Hinckley made good sense given what we've been through. So that was the thought for the day. We'll move to our consent items. Oh, by the way, I want to excuse Commissioner Bell, who is not able to be here with us today. Thought for the consent items: request for approval of purchase orders in the amount of $226,790.70. Request for approval of warrants number 404249 through 404593 in the amount of $657,788.22. Request for approval of minutes for the meeting held on April 26th of 2016. Request for approval of ACH payment to U.S. Bank in the amount of $109,211.74. For purchasing card transactions made through the billing cycle ending March 15th of 2016. Request for approval of ACH payments to U.S. Bank in the amount of $113,759.71. For purchasing card transactions made through the billing cycle ending April 15th of 2016. Request from the Treasurer's Office for approval to surplus a Cummings Jet Count bill counter. Request from the Sheriff's Office for approval to donate items to the Ogden Bike Collective under provision of Utah Code 77-24A-4, lost or mislaid personal property in Weber County Sheriff's Office policy number 804-6.5. All right. Looks like we've got Mr. Taylor here representing the Clerk Auditor's Office today. Good to have you, Lynn.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Any comments on the consent items or questions from the Commission?
A couple things. First of all, Ricky Hatt sends his regrets. He's in Chicago right now at the Election Assistance Commission Advisory Board as one of an appointed member, one of 4 local government level folks nationwide that are on that board. As far as the consent items, there were 16 purchase orders for a total of $227,000. 62% of that, or $140,000, were for roads, department, excavator, and dust guard. 12%, or $26,000, with the library for HVAC work at the headquarters and computer equipment at the Pleasant Valley branch. There were 345 checks totaling $658,000. A large part of that, 26%, or $169,000, was for the library construction project. 19%, or $124,000, maintenance for the new financial software system, and then 12%, or $77,000, to the Housing Authority for housing and rent payments.
Questions, Commissioner?
No,
Comments?
I'll make a motion that we approve the consent items as read.
Okay, I'll second. Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, to our action items. Looks like we've got a fairly short meeting today, Lance. You can have as much time as you want. Come on up. This is a request for approval of pre-promulgation of existing Weber County emergency operations, basic plan and hazard analysis.
Thank you, Commissioners, for letting me have a little bit of time on the agenda today.
It's kind of good to have you here. Maybe you can give us a brief update before you present this on some of the events of the last couple of days.
Sure. Sunday morning we started getting phone calls. South Ogden City, Washington Terrace had a lot of wind damage, a lot of greenways, a lot of trees been blown over, and so that's when we made some contact and decided let's open up the transfer station on Sunday. So we opened it from 1 to 8 o'clock and received a lot of waste, and we really appreciate the folks out at the transfer station taking their Sunday and going and doing that. We've continued on with that, keeping it open through Friday till 8 o'clock every night. Ogden City is just about filled up. Well, they have filled up their green waste facility. They're now dumping, and they're probably about full there at the parking lot, their overflow for the rodeo grounds there off River Parkway. And so we're also accepting Ogden City waste. North Ogden City opened up their green waste facility on Sunday, and they've been taking a lot of debris there. Pleasant View has a temporary site that they opened up for their citizens to make it easy for them to just dump up there in Pleasant View City. Not a lot of structural damage to county or city-owned facilities. Street lights, signs. I believe one of the schools that's owned by Weber School District lost some of its roofing. McKay lost some roofing. I think those are probably some of the worst damages that we've seen to public infrastructure. So we made it through pretty good. I think the worst wind gust was about 70 miles an hour or so in the south end of Ogden, and gusts were about 53 miles an hour out at Hinckley Airport. So it was mostly just from this North Ogden, East Bench kind of an event from North Ogden to Uona Highlands. We had a lot of debris and overturned trees in Uona Highlands area. And the road crews were out Sunday clearing the roads there. A lot of volunteerism, it always happens. Every time we have a big wind event, everybody comes out with their saws and helps their neighbor. And that's how you get through it, neighbor helping neighbor.
I was looking for a good reason to miss church. Hey, I think that we did have a little bit of wind damage out at the fairgrounds, Commissioner.
Did we?
Did you get the email that
Yes.
showed that? Okay.
I haven't seen
I
that
think
email.
Mr. Harvey had sent us some pictures of some damage out there. So it affected a lot of folks. I think it's definitely not overwhelming out there, but it's definitely some stuff we need to fix.
Yeah, I was amazed at how much debris there is, with only 70 mile an hour winds. It's just amazing. So, good thing we didn't have 90 or 110 mile an hours. 2011 was a pretty bad event, but this is maybe comparable.
Just all kinds of trouble in 2011.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead, Lance.
Okay. Well, thank you for letting me take a little time on the agenda today. Every year we receive a small emergency management planning grant. It's federal money passed through the state. And this year, about 3 weeks ago, we received the grant guidance. And a couple of people at the state are interpreting the grant guidance to be that we have to present to you every 2 years now our basic emergency operations plan. And the basic emergency operations plan, we haven't made any updates to it at all. We were scheduling to make some updates later this year because of the reorganization that you implemented last year with the county organization. But a basic emergency operation plan basically is a framework, and it outlines these county departments in an emergency are responsible for these emergency support functions. And we've spent a lot of time the last few years revising our annexes to the plan, but the way the folks at the state are interpreting it now, it has to be the basic plan. A good basic plan, I think, doesn't need to be updated every 2 years, but we'll be back every 2 years to update that. We didn't make any changes in this plan yet because of the time frame. We had a really short window. The grant application had to be in by last week. So we're just asking you to ratify the signing of this. The only page we changed in this plan was the signature page for the commissioners on page 3. And we will be back later this year with those changes to better reflect the county organization, the different departments that we have now. And we'll be back also with some other annexes that we've updated. We've got the hazmat annex. We'll be making a few changes to our medical annex as well, and recovery and a continuity as well. So
Good. Well, I think it's a really good idea to review this from time to time. I mean, these little, as I call this little event, obviously it's not little to everyone who was affected, but
right.
When we think of the grand scheme of things, it's good opportunity because everything has to kick into gear, and we get a chance to evaluate, okay, is our
Yep.
procedure and our policy and plans, are they working the way that they're supposed to? And,
Yeah.
and are we working through these issues appropriately? And so when we do have something that really is major, where we have to mobilize a lot of resources and a lot of availability to county facilities and things like that, that it actually works, that everybody clicks in and says, this is where I'm supposed to be.
And right in line with your thought of the day, the attitude. The attitude with working with folks in the county family is just fantastic. After I went down to Uinta Highlands and checked that out with Ryan Sunday morning about noon, I went and spent the rest of the day with Ogden City, helping them work through their issues. And the cooperation and the spirit of volunteerism is just amazing in this county, and it's a great place to live, great place to work. So hats off to everybody.
Thank you. Appreciate it. All right. Any questions, comments, Commissioner?
Nope. I'll make a motion that we approve the repromulgation of the existing Weber County Emergency Operations Basic Plan and Hazard Analysis through ratification.
Big word.
I can't say promulgation very good. Promulgation.
I can't
Kind
either.
of worked my way through it quickly.
You did great.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll second that motion. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you, Lance.
Thank you,
Appreciate it.
Commissioners.
Unanimous. Okay, item number 2, request for approval of an ordinance of the County Commissioners, amending Title 2, Chapter 13, Section 7 of the Weber Ordinances relating to county records access. And we had our first reading on this in our last meeting last week. Dave, if you want to just briefly remind us if there's any additional thoughts that you have after last week's hearing, feel free to tell us what we should be
Mr.
doing.
Chair, you said briefly, it offered Lance a lot of time that I can briefly do this. We did have the first reading last week. There have been some minor changes for clarification and to enhance clarity, if you will, on the process. Again, the major change is the commission now needs to make some appointments. One is the Chief Administrative Officer for Appeals. And then that appointment, they are the last level appeal except before the board. And the county commission will need to make appointments to the board. Again, as a reminder, a county employee, a citizen, another citizen who has professional experience, the legislature in its wisdom, I'll just say that has professional experience in either requesting records or responding to records. And we have had one request already come in, I know, from an Ogden City employee who would like to be on that board. I don't know how the commission, if they want to take applications applications or such. But that's the next step after this ordinance is approved. And unless you have questions, I'd just recommend that you enact the ordinance.
Okay, so we enact the ordinance and then we would come back at a later date and make those appointments at some point. Okay. All right, Commissioner, any questions?
Ordinance 3,
I'm sorry.
Ordinance 3.
No, I'm happy to see this. I like the process, so thank you, Dave. You ready?
Yep.
I'll make a motion that we approve ordinance number 3 of the County Commission of Weber County, amending Title 2, Chapter 13, Section 7 of the Weber Ordinance relating to county records access.
Okay, I have a motion and a second on the floor. I'll second. Any further discussion to that motion? Okay, roll call.
Commissioner Ebert,
Aye.
Chair Gibson,
Aye. Passes unanimously. Thank you. Okay, I told you it might be a short one compared to our 3 or 4 hour one last week. You never know. So we're done with our action items. This is the time for public comment. If there's any from the public who would like to comment, please come to the microphone. State your name for the record. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioner Gibson, Commissioner Ebert. My
Thank
name is
you.
Alan Wheelwright. I live in Eden, Utah. I've met with you before, Commissioner Gibson.
Yes, good to see you.
I'm here to talk to you about North Ogden Divide.
Okay.
You know, I'm an avid cyclist, and these new signs that have gone up have really created, in my mind, a sense of animosity between drivers and cyclists. I have a few kind of open questions for you. I lost my notes there. These signs have made it extremely difficult to exit Ogden Valley, which I live in. The only option now is to go over Trappers, go down Highway 84, which traffic's doing 75, 80 miles an hour to get down to Ogden. I'm wondering what sort of precedents do these signs set? Why North Ogden Divide? Why were they put up there? Why not 12th Street? 12th Street scares me. High speeds, very small shoulder. I know you guys are doing some improvements to it. Also around the reservoir in sections, there's also really scary places with much higher speeds. North Ogden Divide is not one of those. I have cycled that many, many times. I do not find that a dangerous road. Cars are generally driving slow, and also there's enough shoulder on there. My next question is why the precedents? I'm on the board of Weber Pathways, and helped build pathways before, and we've required to have traffic engineering study. I talked with Sean Wilkinson, and he could not point me in the direction of the traffic study that was done in order to put up these signs. So without the proper engineering study done, why were these signs put up? Also, if the proper traffic studies were not done, what kind of risk does that put Weber County if a cyclist is hit because a motorist believes that the cyclist should not be there? I mean, as much as you say not recommended, to most people, if you say not recommended, that means they should not be there. I've had angry motorists shaking their fists at me, honking their horn. I would, at minimum, appreciate, Sean's already done it, is put up a share the road sign. But that's kind of counterintuitive. We have a share the road sign, then we say not recommended, somewhere in between. I think the sign should be changed to something narrow road with steep grades. Drivers, cyclists, and pedestrians use caution and be alert. This is something simple that could be done with a simple overlay over the top of the signs. It would not cost the county too much, especially because the sign on the North Ogden Divide side blew down the other day. It would be a great time to do it. So, thank you.
You're welcome. I didn't know it blew down. That's just an interesting little irony. Sorry. I'm sorry. Well, how can you not laugh at that? The sign that caused all the controversy is blown down. What am I supposed to say?
Did it really blow down?
All right. Well, generally in public comment, we can't respond too much to what's going on because it may be a legislative item. I don't know, Dave, this being a administrative issue that we took a while ago, can we respond a little bit to some of the things that would you like to say anything, Commissioner?
Well, just really quickly, great questions, great thoughts. I appreciate when our community comes forward with ideas and with concerns and allows us to maybe address them. Sometimes we come up with great ideas. I think we've done that in a couple different areas in the last couple of weeks. Specific to a traffic study, from my understanding, signs that are warning signs, that are not regulatory signs, aren't required to have a traffic study. It doesn't create any liability by warning individuals of an upcoming dangerous curve or a condition. And so the traffic study isn't necessarily something that is a requirement to put up a warning type of a sign. I participate in all kinds of sporting events, not as much as I used to as I get older. And so I understand that sometimes there are things that we get really vested in and becomes the focus of our life. As a commission, we need to be aware of the whole 360. And so there are bicyclists and those avid bicyclists that understand the conditions, they understand the risks that are out there. But we do have a population that doesn't, that just jumps on bikes or skateboards or horses or bulls, and they don't truly understand the danger that's out there. And we feel very strongly that we have to, through Wayfair and through other means, just warn individuals at times when maybe this is not the best condition. And then if you choose to do that, maybe your skill level allows you to do that. If your skill level doesn't, then maybe you should go to a sometimes different sport. So we understand that, and we are
They're trying to push me towards
we are
badminton.
we are concerned about it. I have faith in people. I don't believe a majority of people will look at a sign and then that will dictate their behavior. I think the individuals that are shaking their hands and fists at you and screaming and spitting, and they're going to do that regardless. That's in their nature. So I understand the concern. We need to be very aware when we put up signs that they fall within the standard. And so that's why that particular sign was picked. That was the standard that was being used. And so, again, we want to make a bike-friendly community. We have started the process of looking into, different areas, working with Ogden City. Active transportation is extremely important to us in economic development and in community development. We walk a kind of a balance beam on how we create our communities and where we really want to push this active transportation and still make it safe for everybody. And really that's what our main goal is. It's not to create any type of barrier for anyone to participate in any type of sport that they really love and they enjoy doing. And so we will continue to do that. We'll continue to take your input in trying to create an environment that allows you to really appreciate and be a part of doing something you really love. But I have faith in people. I don't think people are so simple-minded that a simple sign is going to drive them to do behavior that they wouldn't do if they hadn't read this sign. So those are my thoughts. But I appreciate the time, effort, and energy you put into really building our community.
I agree. And I could add a lot to that, but I think you pretty well said it all, James.
And I'll pay for it.
It was good. And there's been a little bit of discussion about this over the last little while, and we just want to reiterate that we are not in any way, shape, or form trying to discriminate or hurt a particular group of people. In fact, we just want people to be aware of the risks that are around us. And frankly, from a county perspective, an administrative perspective in the county, we have a responsibility to limit the risk to the taxpayers, and that's one of the things that we're trying to do here, to make sure that we appropriately warn wherever we can when we see dangers. And I think that it's good that we found a pretty good little compromise too. I hope that all sides can see that we're saying, hey, there's some risk here, but there's also a reminder that everyone is allowed on our roadways. Walkers, pedestrians, bicyclists, motorists. Although I will say, I can kind of tell you generally which one is going to get the worst end of the deal if there's a crash, right? And it's not the automobile. And so so we have to remind, pedestrians and bicyclists to be as aware as possible as they can. And so anyway, we've tried to match things as best we can with our friends at UDOT, and I think it's a good time to point out that in a discussion yesterday with Chris Peterson from UDOT, he told me that they are intending to put some share the road signs up in the canyon as well, close by. In regards to this same discussion, where they have a sign similar to the one that we put up, which we patterned ours after, and so the whole point is that on both of those corridors, they are dangerous, they're narrow, they're a challenge. We remind people of that, and then we remind motorists as well to share the road with those folks. So we hope that there's a positive discussion that comes from this, and a positive perception of the fact that we're really trying to involve everyone, and let's not get too focused on one particular area. Let's, as Commissioner Ebert said, I think focus on the 360 here, and I think we've got a pretty good solution. So.
And Alan, if I would just add really quickly, I think that what you're going to find is as our community becomes more attuned to active transportation and bicyclists, and as we develop roads and design them, you will find that the overall feeling from the community will start to change, right? When the expectation changes. And so what I would be concerned with really from your viewpoint is if you start the process of turning one particular opportunity into a negative, you don't want to poison the rest of the water, right?
Right.
We want a whole community that wants 12th Street to be redesigned with bike lanes, and Skyline to have bike lines, and
Absolutely.
Kiesel to have bike lines, and we want all that support. So we need to understand there's limitations on certain roads, and understand them, and work to find the very best solution we can, understanding that we don't want to poison the well for everybody. And so a general population that doesn't understand active transportation, but eventually will, we want to start them off on the right foot.
Well, I appreciate you, both of you. Sometimes, though, I feel these warnings are caution contents may be hot. I know they're hot, you know they're hot, but why do those warning signs need to be on there? And this warning sign seems to be awfully one-sided. If we could just add the verbiage in there, motorists, cyclists, pedestrians, use caution. I talked with Chris Peterson the other day. That was really interesting what you said. And I also talked with a traffic safety engineer. UDOT and the traffic safety engineer said, why did they put these signs there? Of any of the roads, why did they select this one sign? And when talking with Chris Peterson after the signs that you modeled it, he says, those were done 20 years ago. The guy who's did them is now dead. He goes, I can't take them down now because they're up there. My concern is the precedents that you've set by putting these signs up there, and what can we do to make sure that not all the onus is on the cyclists and the pedestrians. Make sure the motorists are aware of that. I'm not sure if just to share the road, maybe just a little bit changing of the verbiage on that. And anyone who goes up there knows it's a steep road, anyone who drives it, but we should warn everyone and let everyone know that, that this is a road that needs to be of concern. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Final motion.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Okay, I'll second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. We're adjourned. Thank you for this vast crowd that attended today.
We had 4 people online. That's a little different than the 75 we had last.
Does anyone want to talk about Pineview?